Hello internet people and folk who like watching idiots fix things. My name's Lottie, this is Fish People Music, and this is bloody heavy. It's a Yamaha DX21. It's broken. So let's take a look at it, go through some of the specs and whatnot, and then I'll tell you what's wrong with it, and we'll see if we can not only fix it, but maybe attempt to future-proof it so we don't have similar issues in the future. The DX21 was part of Yamaha's
1985
FM synthesizer range, the flagship of which was the DX7. The 21 was a cost-reduced, slightly simpler version of this. However, it has its own unique charm and its own unique sound, and it's by no means an amateur piece of kit. It's kind of higher level prosumer, or certainly was at the time. So not only does this look incredibly late 80s, early 90s, it sounds it and it's great. And if you come with me to the workbench, we'll get it open, have a look inside and see what we can do to future-proof it and to get it working again and sounding like it did back in the day. Let's get to it. Okay, so let's switch it on and just take a closer look at what's going on here. And it boots up fine, and yeah, that's the outcome. And this combined with no sound makes me think that we've lost our ROM settings, which apparently is a common issue because the batteries that we used in these things get old, run out, and we lose everything. So let's open it up and see what we can see. So from the looks of it, we just need to undo the screws here. It's missing two screws here. Here, and at the front. It always worries me though when somebody's been into a system previously. But, you know, we'll see what we can see when we get in there, I suppose. Wish me luck. And here we are, the inside of the DX21. So we've got power supply and yeah, we've got the power supply here, which looks in fairly decent condition. We've got what I suspect is the main logic board. That could do with a little bit of a clean because there's some crustiness on it. These are the mechanisms for the expression wheels. Keyboard matrix down here. So far, so not too bad. So the next thought is take this lad out and see what we can see. Okay, so what do we have here? Well, I think that this is our processor. This is likely the BIOS. And this lad here is our sound processor. Yamaha YM2164. That's what makes all of the squishy noises go squish. Yeah, that's technical term. There's not much else of real interest on here, apart from this. This is where I suspect the issue is. A soldered in battery. A CR2032. And yeah, I think that's what we're going to need to replace. Right, so now the soldering iron is hot, the first thing I'm going to do is actually snip here, or attempt to. And try and... it becomes apparent. We have a mild amount of leakage. Nothing dangerous, but it does point out that, yep, this battery is a baddie. Wow. So, as I was saying, the reason that I have snipped this off instead of just unsoldering it is for two reasons. One, ease of access, and two, this is an old circuit board, and you can see, if I just bring this up close to the camera, you can see that the solder tag is on both ends. Wow, this is a bulgy old battery. But on both sides, come on, focus. Anyway, on both sides of the cell, the contacts are spot welded to the body, which means that when you start heating up the legs, the heat will basically be absorbed by the metalwork, and you'll just keep pumping heat into it, and eventually it'll come out. However, you do run the risk of scorching the tracks on the circuit board, because the heat will go both ways and it will heat soak the tracks and possibly damage their adherence to the circuit board, possibly burn through them. So you remove as much heat sinking as possible, so that you can have as little time applying heat to the tracks as you possibly can. Cool. So let's get to taking these pins out. Okay, so first I'm going to put a little bit of flux down, and I'm going to go with a suction tool, because I think we should be able to get it all out in one go. There's not much solder to have to remove, and yeah, I am trying it from the top first. Let's see what happens. And just like that, the batteries ran out on my camera whilst I was filming, and I didn't notice. Anyway, I've swapped cameras now, so that's why it looks a little bit different. But here we can see the future proofing that I was talking about. I'm just going to clean up a little bit of hot glue on it. Hey folks, it's Editing Lottie here, and I've just realised that I lost a lot more footage than I thought I had when my camera died. In fact, I missed the whole thing about making it future-proof, so I'm just filming this little bit to go through it now. So basically, as you saw, the battery was dead and it was soldered in, and I've got one of my little boxes of components here, and I basically replaced the battery with one of these. It's just a simple little coin cell holder. You solder it in where the original battery would have gone, making sure to get your polarities right, and it just sits in there, clips the battery in, and whenever it's time to replace it, you just unclip here and it comes out, holds it in nice and secure. Yeah, I can't believe that I actually lost one of the main parts to this film, but there you go. So yeah, that's, just imagine that being soldered onto a circuit board, and that's pretty much the footage that was lost. Anyway, back to the action. With that all done, maybe it's time to start putting it back together. And the most difficult part about that is going to be getting these wires back underneath this big old wire clip here. There we go. All lined up nicely. Yeah, I know I'm using an electric screwdriver. I tend to only use them for taking out. But if you're gentle with them, you can use them for putting back in. Now, of course, the trick when taking screws out with an electric screwdriver is just to crack them first. Don't go straight at it and try and undo them straight away, because if they're stuck, you'll end up camming them out and ruining the screw. Likewise, when putting them in, if you don't have a screwdriver with torque settings, it's always best to be familiar with your tools and know when to stop. I tend to have a really light grip on them so that it'll spin in my hand rather than camming out on the screw itself. And wow, there we go. Just want to check and see if these screws will fit in here. No, that's a shame. Anyway. Oh, would you look at that? Nearly done. So yeah, I would actually, as an aside, recommend with any piece of equipment that you have that has a soldered in battery to remove it and replace it with a battery holder and a new battery, because nobody wants, like I said, nobody wants to keep heating circuit boards up and cooling them down and damaging the tracks for the sake of replacing a battery that can just be done with a click. And there we go. There we go. All buttoned up, all happy. And all that's left now is to plug it in and see what happens. No change. Which is cool. I wasn't expecting any change because that's not what will have restored the settings. Now we need to get the laptop out. Yay! Okay, and now we shall see if the goof is in the pudding. Proof is in the pudding. Yamaha DX 21 synthesizer, A1, deep, grand. It's because I've got the chorus turned on. It doesn't. Oh no, it's off. Cool. Must be off whenever you switch it off. But now I'll admit the piano sounds don't sound particularly piano-y in my opinion. Some of the stuff like the electric piano sounds, they do have kind of a Rhodesy kind of vibe to them, I guess. But the synth sounds are where FM just kicks. See, you can be just like me and not know what you're doing and make a fucking horrendous racket. The bass is nice and solid. and actually they sound really good with chorus turned on. Again, synth bass. Okay, for cleaning, I like to use a microfiber cloth and basically Windex or Windoline or whatever you've got. Something that is non-streaky, non-residue leaving, but also isn't overly harsh. Because I have used cleaners before that have been really good for getting grit and grot off, but also wound up taking a lot of the legend off of the front of the equipment I was cleaning. But for basic cleaning, you can't beat Windex. I mean, you could use soapy water really, and it's always the cleaning solution on the cloth, not sprayed onto the unit itself, because you don't want liquids going inside something you've just cleaned. Now, obviously, this has got some stubborn stains and it's not going to look factory fresh no matter what I do. But as I've said before, when I've cleaned things and refurbished units, I prefer not to make it back to factory fresh. I find that each instrument has its story, and honouring that story whilst making it work for another however many years is, I think we owe it to the equipment that we use, to respect the life it's had, respect its story, and respect what it's been through. There will be no two DX21s the same as this, because there will be no two pieces of equipment that have gone through the same trials. And I think that's wonderful. And I think if we return it all to factory fresh and remove the evidence of its existence, we don't know what it's been through, but it's been through a lot. You can tell that. Now, to get into the areas that I can't get with my cloth, I found that car detailing brushes are the way forward. Just want them a little bit damp, again, so that no fluid gets in anywhere, but just damp enough to be able to get cleaning solution on there and be able to pick up the dirt. And as much as I love instruments that have got stories, I am really confused by the relicking process for guitars. Like, I love an instrument that's got a story to tell, that's been through all sorts and come out the other side. But to fake that from the factory, that's just bonkers. Imagine if you did it to synths. You know, they'd be coming out with all scuffed up tops and cracked keys and stuff, and well, that just sounds ridiculous. And it looks a little bit nicer, I think. Just get... Where have I put my brush? Oh, I've been a fool. Come back, brushy. that I think is the top. Nice and done. Any dust between the keys out with my little brush here. Now, of course, there was one thing I didn't get on camera, which was me hollering because it turns out that the capacitors in the power supply have a lot more store electricity in them, a lot longer than you think they would. Guess how I found that out? Now then, let's see how this Yamaha logo comes up. It's kind of weird, you know. Like I said earlier, you think that they're just black boxes, but they're not. They're brown boxes, which is interesting. And the Yamaha logo, well, I think it must have been grey to start with because it's not coming up particularly shiny now. I might actually, because it's a relatively solid surface, I'm going to just put a little bit more of the actual cleaning solution on there. I honestly think though that it was not perfectly white to start with, and it's been worn over the years. There's no more grot coming off of it, so I'm happy to leave it at that. And let's see what we can do with this back now, huh? Again, there's nowhere for the liquids to get into the synth, so I'm feeling okay just dolloping them on the top. That's the remnants of gaffer tape, you know. I think this is probably used live at some point. I wonder what sort of stuff it played on stage. It's always the question with instruments like this. What was it used for, you know? I might try a little bit of isopropyl on there just to get the glue off. Yep, isopropyl for the glue from the gaffer. Let's just hope it doesn't make the paintwork too unhappy. I'll probably use some polish on it in a bit as well. That's as much as I'm going to do, I think. A bit more of a... Yeah, okay, maybe get the worst of that off as well, I think. Right then, I think that's as good as it's gonna get. Cool. Right. Time to talk to camera, I guess. Back in a bit. Well, that went really well, didn't it? I'm quite happy with that. Everything seems to be working, and the unit itself is happy. I've soak tested it for a bit, left it turned on, and so far so good. I've turned it off and it's come back with all the presets as they should be. So that replacement battery did the trick. And yep, it's been future-proof now. That battery, even if it's a cheap one, will give it another decade or two of use. And then, should it need another coin cell in 20-30 years time, as long as they're still being made, it'll be really easy to swap in, because the battery holder's been put in the board. So yeah, part of me thinks, well, maybe it's not entirely original now, but I think that was a mod that could have been done at the time it was produced, and I think it's a suitable quality of life change that doesn't affect really anything apart from what happens when you take it apart. So I'm happy with it. And what to do with it now? I think I will move it on. I don't know anybody that might be willing to buy it off of me as yet, but there are lots of people out there that love these old FM synths more than I do, and as a keyboard it's great. As a sound module it's even better. There are parameters in MIDI that can be accessed that you can't get on the keyboard. For example, velocity sensing and aftertouch, both of which were standard on the DX7, but this isn't a DX7. But should you have an aftertouch controller keyboard, setting this up as just as a sound module, you can have all of that functionality. But either way, it's a great sounding synth that I'm looking forward to moving on to someone who appreciates it. Until then, I will make sure to keep the battery topped up by making foolish noises with it. And that's everything, I guess. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope maybe you learned something. If you did either of those two, there's a thumbs up button sort of down there somewhere that you can push. And if you want to subscribe for more random crap, then feel free. If you want to buy me a coffee, there's a link for that as well. Yep, that's everything. Thanks for watching. I actually had a real good time doing this. Although, I did cut out the bit where the camera tripod fell over and hit me on the head. Yeah, you didn't need to see that. Anyway, yes, thank you. I will see you again soon. And yeah, if you ever get a vintage piece of kit that looks like its firmware's been kind of corrupted, try swapping the battery out and reloading it. You would be surprised at how many things that works on. Cool. Laters.